Hey, before we get the episode proper started, just a couple things to go over just briefly. One, this is our first episode that we recorded remotely with a new recording setup, and apparently my mic was a little bit hot the whole night, and so the sound quality isn't the best. We apologize in advance. We have that fixed for next time. Also, I am not sick. I just thought I might be getting sick when I recorded the thing. I am still, at this time, perfectly healthy. That's all I really had to say. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Keyboard.
Hi, Craig.
All right, is everybody ready to start this mess?
Yes.
Ready.
Let's do it.
All right. Hello, Internet, and welcome to another episode of Geek Fanthology. I am your host, Neil Cordray, and I'm joined this week by
The one true Ben.
Mike?
and special guest star
Ethan Cordray of the Technical Difficulties Gaming Podcast, technicaldifficultiespod.com.
and also my brother.
Yes.
And also super special guest star who's not going to say anything, Craig the bot, because we are recording this remotely because well, I might actually be sick. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's a little dicey.
We know he's twisted and wrong, but
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm sick with just some regular sickness or whether I've got, or whether I'm down with the sickness or whether I've got the thing or what have
You
you.
got the cool sickness that all the kids are talking about nowadays.
Yeah, do I have what is referred to on the YouTube because of demonetization as the human malware? Because you can't call it COVID-19 because YouTube takes away all your money. On the upside, we're not monetized on YouTube at the moment because we don't have enough subscribers. So I can say that as much as I want. Also,
Okay.
Please subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Hold on.
Click
Why
like.
are they demonetizing people for using the term that everyone uses?
Because they're not only demonetizing it, they're also unless you're like a news source, they're making you harder to find because they're trying to fight. At least their stated reason is because they're trying to fight misinformation.
They're using their crude, extremely blunt instrument.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you're
to
definitely
try to
flooding
fight,
a fly with a giant mallet. So
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Okay, I see.
well, yeah. I mean, but when you look at how misinformation works, it usually works by massive amounts of.
Yeah.
It spreads virally.
I honestly think
Pretty
it's
much.
probably the right decision, as messed up and weird as it sounds at first glance. But
It's the best of a series of bad decisions.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
we're definitely practicing social distancing. At minimum, there's like 6 miles between us at the moment, and
Yep.
Ethan's like 200 and some odd miles away
Right.
from us. So
Broadcasting from the beautiful town of Columbia, Missouri.
hey,
Ah.
it is a beautiful town.
It is. We took a walk this
Oh.
afternoon, though. The weather was great. Anyway, we should probably talk about our topic or something.
Yeah, well,
This
you
is
don't listen
what
to
we
this
do.
podcast very often, do you, Ethan?
I betray myself.
Welcome to Geek Fanthology, where we talk about something and don't talk about it at the same time.
Yep.
This is a totally a one of those memes of Whose Line Is It Anyway, where it's like, "Welcome to Geek Fanthology," where the digressions are made up and the topic doesn't matter.
Yeah, the topic doesn't matter, and the questions are constant.
We'll try and keep it semi on topic like we try to usually, but so today we are going to talk about the third season of Castlevania, which came out on Netflix, and we'll get to that here in a second. But first, as always, we have our general anybody run into anything interesting on the internet recently?
Well, interesting on the
Anything they wanna
internet.
signal boost?
Well, Signal Boost, I'm in the Tomorrow's In podcast.
Mhm.
We are supposed to record this weekend. Our team's Last episode came out on March 15th. I'm part of
Ooh.
Recon R17, which is set in Florida. So, given the current setup of things, with people worrying about the end of the world, the Mara Project is a post-apocalyptic role-playing game. So, yeah,
It's so great
fun.
to get away from our worries with pretending to be like in the end of the world when it feels like it's the end of the world.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
Well, at least this way, because at least this way your characters sleep through the end of the world.
yep, and they just have the aftermath to deal with.
Different game.
Mhm. I've been doing pretty much two things recently, which is one, I have mostly reclaimed my PC Master Race membership card by building a new computing rig.
Exciting.
I haven't quite finished like updating the BIOS and the OS and such, but I will have a computer that will be able to run Cyberpunk 2077, which is all I really care about. And aside from that, I've been playing The Witcher 3 on my PS4 because it was on sale due to the COVID-19, due to the, hey, pretty much everyone who sells video games right now is having a sale.
Yeah, it's pretty
because,
sweet,
you know,
I like to call it a
everyone's
peer
dying.
pressure sale.
Yep.
It's like, oh crap, everyone else is doing. I don't want to look like a dick. Hey, everything is on sale. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Yeah.
Hey, I got Mad Max for $4 today.
I wanted to play Mad Max. It looks good.
Yeah, $4 on Steam right now.
You know who else is giving stuff away right now? Oddly enough, and who started all of this? Pornhub.
So
I read into a news story about that on Yahoo. I'm like, what? The last thing you expect to see on a news page is Pornhub does something cool.
I don't know. It depends on which news pages you're on, because Pornhub actually does a lot of cool things. They plant a lot of trees. They do things for. They have massive literacy projects. Because here's a news flash, everyone. Porn sells really well.
No kidding. And you know a lot more about Pornhub than I expect. No, wait.
Yes, well.
Rule 34.
No doubt. But yeah, truth is Pornhub actually donated a bunch of masks to the state of New York as well. Also, thing I am boosting. My girlfriend Randy is making masks, cloth masks. They are not N95 masks, but they are triple layer. So if you want to donate to a good cause, a half yard of 100% cotton interfacing as well, or narrow elastic is always welcome. If you donate at least 1/2 yard of cloth, she will make you a mask in addition to the mask she makes for someone else.
Cool.
So we're gonna have a link in the doobly-doo or something. How are you gonna send out the word
I
there?
have I have a post out. I will put a post on my website, bensreader.com, and so that people can get in touch with me either on Facebook or Facebook's probably going to be the easiest way.
Yeah, our doobly-doo is just going to be covered in links today this time.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to my post on that if you don't mind.
Also,
because I've
I
already
apologize in advance, but Ben's internet is run by a rodent running around in a wheel, and you need to feed that thing more.
And just be careful when you do. I mean, you got to sanitize like a mofo if it's being run by rodent.
This is true.
By the way, I have
Depends on
to
the rodent.
I have to hand it to you. That's a hell of a segue where it's like, yeah. So speaking of pornography, my girlfriend is doing this thing. That was a weird segue.
That was a weird segue.
Well, I mean, we are known for our weird segues, are we not?
I suppose.
We are Geek Fanthology.
So I guess that makes it my turn for signal boosty stuff. I don't really have much. I've mentioned before that I've been playing Final Fantasy 14, really enjoying it. I let's see. I guess I don't know if it'll still be on by the time this is posted, but there was a sale where people could get the previous expansions for free when you buy Shadowbringers, which is the latest expansion, and I think there's like an extra month of game time in there. You can check and see what's available at the time, but I've been having a lot of fun with the game, and I guess it's like a sub boost within it is the gold saucer is friggin' amazing. Holy crap. That place is so whimsical and I love it. And
I've heard that a bit.
So that music is so soothing. In the trying times like these, it's nice to have that little, security blanket of whimsy.
Yeah.
Oh, another random thing. Sure, some people have heard because there's all sorts of, things like this being shared on the old internet, but Sir Patrick Stewart has been reading a sonnet of Shakespeare every day, and that's delightful. So people that want to, hear Patrick Stewart, as that's one of the various calming voices, the old ritual chicken soup. That's a free, fun thing you can check out. A lot of individuals and organizations are doing things like that where they're kind of sharing content and just, trying to do good stuff, do what you can.
Neil Gaiman gave out carte blanche to anyone who wants to read any of his material out loud on the internet for free to people right now.
Yeah,
specifically to LeVar Burton.
No, and then someone else said, "Hey, can I do this too?" And he said, "Anyone can."
Yeah, sure, everybody. Yeah.
Right. But
awesome.
The reason I wanted to put that out there is because it was LeVar Burton who was looking for stuff, and Neil Gaiman just out of the blue said, "Do that."
Yeah, that was.
Hello, I'm Neil Gaiman. You can use any of my stuff.
Right,
I'm Neil Gaiman. I approve this message.
Exactly.
Yes, great.
Also, I should point out that Actors Theater of Missouri, the people I do Shakespeare with, are doing something similar. We're doing Shakespeare monologue a day. Similarly, I forgot to do one today though, so I have to do 2 tomorrow. But yeah. So Castlevania, everybody. We got a spoiler of the week.
Hey, you missed me.
Oh, sorry, Ethan.
Yeah.
So I'm not used to having you. I'm sorry.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
He's only your brother.
So long as you're sorry. All right. So 2 things, I guess. One is, so I'm out of work right now. Still getting paid. Fortunately, it's kind of best of both worlds. Nice. But I have a bunch of time, and I'm trying to work on a writing project right now, which I am doing for Red Market's Black Death. So Red Market's is a zombie survival role-playing game, but it's really an economic horror game. So it's about like the economic effects of being in a situation in which like the world has been
in a zombie post-apocalypse,
messed up by a zombie apocalypse. So you're trying to just make ends meet. And so I'm taking that and transposing it into the Middle Ages, into the 14th century, specifically into the immediate aftermath of the Black Death, first gigantic pandemic that hit Western Europe. So it seems like super topical right now, I guess. All of a sudden. So I'm trying to get as much work done as I can on that. If anyone is listening to this is interested in that, there are a whole bunch of playtest RPG scenarios of that we recorded for my podcast, which is Technical Difficulties Podcast, technicaldifficultiespod.com. We got a whole bunch of them, and right now I'm actually running games that have been written by somebody else, which is like a super exciting thing that somebody else is writing stuff for like a game that I've written, and it's like kind of a cool milestone for me. But if you actually want to go do something completely else, it's like really fun and just you have some time on the internet. I've been watching a bunch of marble races.
Oh yes.
Oh God, yes.
The YouTube channel Jelly's Marble Runs.
I think it's Gel.
JELLE''S Marble Runs. Gel's Marble Runs. He's doing like a Formula One. It's called Marbula One right now with these like circuit tracks that are amazing. And
my green ducks are taking a beating. I'm really unhappy about it.
Well, I'm a Team Primary fan, and they have one racer who's really good and one racer who's absolutely terrible. And
later in the year, also he's going to do something called Marble League, which used to be called Marble Olympics. and he does it once a year. However, he had to change the name to Marble League because apparently he got noticed by someone who actually like is part of the IOC, and they're like, "You're minorly infringing on our trademark," and
cease and desisted. Boo.
well, all he had to do was change the name, change the name and stop using a modified version of the Olympic logo. He's still doing it.
They are really good. Like, it's hard to underestimate. Like, it's hard to explain exactly what's so cool about these Marvel. But like, if you're missing sports right now, this is a great way to get your sports fix.
Because he pays for a commentator who sounds, I swear I may have heard this commentator like actually commentate a sports event somewhere.
It's very good play-by-play.
Yeah,
it is very
really
good
impressed.
I watched some of those too, and it's hilarious. I mean, because you're watching something really random, but by the way the commentator does it, you're going, oh yeah, there's my team.
Yeah,
and it's great how like each marble has its own like identity and like it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, they sort of describe them just like you would real athletes. So it's hilarious.
Real racing teams.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything else they want to submit for the general people? I'll have links to everything that got mentioned that here in the Facebook post, on the YouTube channel, and on our website www.workingtheoryproductions.com. So we got anything else?
Not really.
Not from here.
Okay.
I think we sink our teeth into Castlevania. All we need is a spoiler.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Alucard is Dracula spelled backwards.
It's like his No.
I know, right? We were gonna go with What Is a Man, but we realized we did that last time. So
yeah, you already know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody listens faithfully to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we have 2 people who download our episode once a week from Ireland. Either that, or we have 2 people who use a VPN in Ireland to download our podcast.
Yeah. There's a good chance if you're listening to this one that you listened to the previous Castlevania one because you're interested in Castlevania stuff. So
yeah, because it's going to have, it's going to say season 3 thoughts and retrospective. By the way, open spoilers. I suppose we could do a little bit of non-spoilery like we used to. But after that, we'll go into spoiler territory. What do we have? What do we have opinions on it that are non-spoilerific?
Non-spoiler opinions.
Yes.
Why don't we maintain our usual rotation here and you kick us off, Neil?
Okay. Well, once again, my hat goes off to the animation team, especially for the animation that they had to do for all the fights in the last couple episodes, because action is hard and time consuming to animate, and
yep.
And the fact that it looks that good is a testament to skill. Although if you slow it down to frame by frame, you actually notice there's a lot of crap that's missing frame wise. But that's actually good too, because you don't notice that unless you're going super slow.
Right.
Also, my hat's off to the writing team for jam packing it once again, just full of damn Easter eggs.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you shouldn't, you should just be enjoying it at regular speed, not breaking it down like it's the Zapruder film from the Kennedy assassination or something.
That's a lot of frames.
Way up and to the left.
I know what you mean though. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree with you about the animation thing. One of the things that was really noticeable in the first season was that it seemed like they saved their entire animation budget for the giant fight in the last episode, which is still somewhat a little bit true at this point. It's almost like a stylistic choice that a lot of the and it's also just a very anime style where there's long sections where there's not a lot of movement, and there's definitely some they're not drawing as many frames as you would expect them to draw in a particular second to
Yeah.
film.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like it really works, and it doesn't really distract from the experience of the whole thing, and it makes the action sequences look great.
Well, I'd
Oh,
say
yeah,
this
it does.
too. Like they established that early on. It kind of, like you said, it kind of feels like a style at this point, and the way it's like the style of the art and everything. It does like because it's I mean it's anime-esque, but it's also like got that like Eastern European medieval Gothic kind of thing going on. And you know when you think of a lot of that stuff, you think of like big murals and stained glass and like scrolls and paintings or whatever, like a lot of stuff that doesn't really have a lot of motion going on. It's a lot of still grabs in terms of like the art of the time or whatever. So it kind of works in a weird way, like thematically.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
Now, the other thing that I technically that I liked a lot was the sound,
Mhm.
because it set the tone really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because like when they're in Leidenfeld, the way that just the sound, the village sounds, compared to you get all this bustle and things like that going on, but then when you're near Alucard and Dracula's castle, it's eerily quiet, and it just all over it. Each setting has its own its own theme feel to it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And
Yeah.
each has a very good soundscape.
Right. And it was well broken up into. They told four different. Well, let's see. Yeah, they told four different stories that throughout the whole thing. There's Alucard's stories. There's Isaac's stories. There's the Trevor, there's Belmont and Trevor and Sifa's stories, and then
Mhm.
Hector's story. All of those, and they don't exactly touch, but we're still invested in them.
There's definitely some touching involved, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I've got thoughts on that part. So yeah, that's my non-spoilery basic stuff.
Ethan, what do you got?
You skipped me.
Oh, I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna skip one person per segment. It seems.
It's Neil, Ben,
Mike,
Mike,
what do you
Ethan.
got?
Neil, Ben, Mike, Ethan. Neil, Ben, Mike, Ethan, because you have to say it 3 times to have it sink in. Yeah, so I definitely agree with Ben's take about the sound music and how the music is kind of a character in and of itself, and it kind of establishes like the ambiance, the theme, the tone, kind of differentiates, helps break up those scenes, kind of identify them against each other. Yeah,
Well, not just the music, but the background sound.
yeah, the ambient sounds and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the lack therefore of that reminded me with the the opening bit on Alucard's story, his thread, if you will, with the abandoned castle and all that. It was very much I got a big I Am Legend vibe going on there, because like he's all by himself and he's kind of losing his mind, and there's that deer like stopping for a moment. Like it was very I Am Legend. Like I'm pretty sure they were inspired by the Omega Man / I Am Legend thing there.
Yeah.
Definitely got that vibe. Yeah, I mean it's it's hard to get into too much of it without getting into spoilers, but I would say one of the things I really enjoyed this season was Trevor and I always forget, how do you pronounce her name again, the magician?
Sypha.
Sypha. Yeah, I always mess it up. Sypha. Trevor and Sypha. I liked seeing their dynamic, their little like traveling partner, monster hunters carnival of death thing. Like it was just interesting to see them kind of like wheel in and do their thing, and how they're back and forth. It's like it hasn't been that long since they met each other, and in some ways they're kind of like an old married couple already. It's pretty adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing about that is that each of those story arcs develops the characters so well.
Yeah. That's one thing I was gonna mention, is that as the storylines develop, it's really interesting to see that what the directions that they're taking the characters, because in many ways this sort of whole feels like a sort of a transitional season. Like a lot of people are like on their way to go do something,
Right.
and things like that,
This is
or
John
getting
Wick
ready
2.
to like do something really important.
Yeah.
But like in the course of that, everybody's like all of the storylines have really significant character development.
It's
of
very
the-
very Game of Thrones-esque in that sense, where it's like, oh, we have this character and this pair of characters, and everyone is kind of like fractured, doing their own thing, traveling to and from, and
Yeah.
they're off doing their own
It's-
thing. And at some point, it'll converge, but it hasn't.
Yeah, it's honestly only one, arguably two of the. I don't want to get too spoilery here, but arguably two of the storylines really have like a narrative climax exactly. But
Yeah, that's an interesting choice of words, but continue.
but they're but they're like every storyline is moving the characters
Mhm.
forward in really significant ways. So it's really fascinating to watch that happen.
Right, and they do some world building at the same time. Like you get some more context of the dystopian setting.
This is dystopian,
Yeah.
right? And you actually get to see the world in the vampire castle.
Yeah.
That map they constantly bring out.
Yep. I think also we can all be agreed that so there's going to have to be a season 4
Yeah.
because there are a lot of untied threads at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I assume it's like this season was probably designed with the understanding that there was definitely going to be a season 4
I think a lot like season 1 was for season 2.
after.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I've read that season 1 was designed partially in like so that it could stand on its own. If it sank like a stone, it still could have
Yeah.
kind of been its own thing.
Well, this
but,
one, as Neil pointed out, at one point is like John Wick 2. It was just one long trailer.
Actually, Mike said that. So
Oh, Mike said that. Okay.
But yeah, very Wick-esque in this
Yeah.
setup.
yeah. So I suppose now we can talk about things with less veiled language. We will pause momentarily here so that I have a little bit of silence for me to insert something from the ocremix.org, probably a remix of Bloody Tears because it's my favorite Castlevania track. And then we will be back. So pause now for music. Okay, I think that's long enough. I just need a nice. I just need a nice dead zone in the waveform to be like, that's where we put it.
Warning, here be spoilers.
Yes, there will be spoilers going forward at this point because there's only so much you can do to talk about something without spoiling it, and so let the spoilers begin. Who wants to start? Because I don't particularly want to start.
Yeah, but you are supposed to start. That is the order that we've
I
established.
don't want. Okay, so fine.
Point of order.
So what's that poor bastard's name?
You have to be more specific.
Yeah, could you vague that up a little bit? Because I was getting way too many details.
You're talking about the other
The Forge Master who just constantly gets fucked over.
Hector.
Hector, that's
Hector,
right.
yeah. Which is funny because he's actually the protagonist of the PS2 Castlevania game that they pulled him from. Like, he's supposed to be the hero. He kills Dracula in his game because you kill Dracula in literally like 95% of Castlevania games.
Well,
Just
he's
keeps coming
What
back.
the hell was that?
that was me hitting my microphone stand. Sorry about that.
Aha. Fair enough. But yeah, no, Hector just is constantly getting the short end of the stick here.
Well, he literally spends the entire season in a prison cell.
He does
Until
go
he
on a
gets
walk
turned into
once.
someone's pet.
Yeah, and I have
He
thoughts
does go
about
on.
that.
He does go on a walk like a
Yeah.
dog.
I don't know
Well,
why
he
he
does-
didn't pick up on the fact that she was treating him like a dog well before she put the ring on him too.
Well,
I'm
he's
pretty sure he did. He just took it in stride.
Right,
I
'cause he
mean,
really didn't
if
have
you
a
look
lot
at
of
the
choice.
way Carmilla treated him in season 2, it's not really a surprise.
But
yeah, just like the boy has no brain is what I'm saying. He just like
Well, didn't we establish in season 2 that like he was really young and traumatized and then like taken in by Dracula and everything, so like he's in a weird way he is sheltered and also abused and just ignorant of a lot of things in general.
yeah,
So it's not
just
surprising that he gets manipulated again when his whole thing was that he got manipulated.
yeah. I'd like him, given that he's another game protagonist, I'd like him to get a little bit of a break at some point here.
I didn't play any of the modern games, so I don't really have any dog. in
I
the
haven't.
fight.
I didn't play Curse of Darkness either, but
I haven't got a dog in that one,
but
I
I'm familiar enough with it because I took the time to familiarize myself with the entire Castlevania game timeline by watching a large group by watching about 2 hours of YouTube videos.
that's certainly more work than I did.
Yeah, I just watched the show.
I find it interesting, so I was like, okay, works
Fair.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saint Germain, by the way, is also from Curse of Darkness.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a historical figure that's used over and over again in a bunch of, anything having to do with occult or supernatural stuff set during this time period. So
this is something that I do not know. So I feel like that's a good. Please continue. What is this about?
So the Comte de Saint Germain was a real guy. He was a historical figure from 1691, or maybe the early 1700s. He died in the 1780s. He was a European.
Are you reading this off of his Wikipedia page, or are you doing this from memory?
Mostly Wikipedia.
Okay,
But
I'm looking. I found his Wikipedia page. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
if he's doing this from memory.
No, I mean he's pretty famous if you're at all familiar with like historical occultism. He was pretty much, I mean, in real life, he was pretty much just a con artist, basically.
That's a line in the show. Is he's a confidence man.
Yeah, he passed himself off under a variety of like names and titles and stuff as some kind of nobleman in order to grift his way through European high society. But a part of his grift was that he posed as being an alchemist and a magician and an occult knower of secret knowledge and things like that. So he's very, very popular among people who do, occult historical philosophy type stuff.
Okay, so quick thought before I forget it. Neil, you were talking about how dumb is Hector? Come on, guys. But like, how dumb is that cult figure who is like, oh, you're just gonna go to the bathroom? Okay. And like just bought into like every stupid half-assed excuse that he gave.
Well, to be fair, he also like that guy was also very clearly not in his correct mind.
This is true. He was very much following someone else there.
And very few people are in their correct mind in the show.
And as evidenced by his reaction once things start at the end, he didn't really realize what was going to be happening. At least not to a full extent, because he was surprised and minorly shocked at what he had done.
Yeah,
that's also a recurring theme.
That's true.
So no, like Saint Germain being like, no, I'm just going to take a piss. That bluff check getting past that guy, not entirely surprising. He's got an insight check of like -3.
Yeah, his wisdom was very low. Of course, that's what happens when you ally yourself to a night creature, because he didn't even recognize the symbols he was using. I think they were kind of like a blind scribe, in that they were just doing the things that they were told, him and all the monks, because the monks that he had were not the most their intelligence and wisdom were their dump stats.
It's true.
Yeah.
So we were officially on whose remarks? Were we still on?
We started with Ethan. We started with Neil and then went to Ethan. Is that right?
Well, no. Ethan jumped in.
I'm sorry about that.
No. I mean, there's going to be jumping in because I didn't know this thing about Saint Germain. This is interesting. In the Castlevania thing, he's a time traveler.
I think that was a digression on Neil. Yeah. I think it was still officially Neil's turn before passing to Ben. So
it's going to happen. I didn't realize that the Leviathan cross was also apparently associated with sulfur, but that's what I know that symbol as. The Leviathan cross, sometimes also known as Satan's cross, which is the double cross-pieced crossover in Infinity Sign.
Yeah.
So
what else you got, Neil?
I was a little disappointed with I felt like the soundtrack wasn't quite as epic in the epic final confrontation as it was in the last season.
Yeah, it's hard to top season 2. That's a good point.
It's because that's because they remixed Bloody Tears at the end.
Well, not only that, but it's like, I mean, it's hard to get more like melodramatic and epic than the final showdown against Dracula in Dracula's castle.
Yeah.
No.
I did also one other thing I do want to just point out, and then I will cede my turn. I will yield my time to the gentleman from Missouri, but
there are no gentlemen on this show.
There was another thing that every time that Trevor employs an axe, it always goes in an upward arcing motion, which I think is a beautiful little, just kind of nod and a wink to the games, which I'm a big fan of. So.
Interesting. When did you notice that? Because I was kind of looking for that sort of thing. I did not pick up on
in the last fight.
When he takes the whip and uses
in the last fight, he grabs the whip, he whips around the axe and chucks it at a guy in the air.
Nice.
And I think it was season 1, he similarly grabs a hand axe and throws it in an upward arcing direction. So he's done it twice now.
That's awesome.
It's the little things.
Right.
They're just like physical homages of how the power ups would work in the old games, basically.
Yeah. Also, Sypha has so many hearts. I swear.
She ain't never
Either
running
that or she's
out.
got cheats going on, like hacks. I call hacks. Hearts are the special weapon energy source in Castlevania, and like all of Sypha's spells would cost hearts in Castlevania 3. And the way she's just spamming magic,
Right.
her non-heart attack was trying to smack someone with a staff.
Which she almost doesn't touch in this season.
I don't think she did touch a staff in this season.
Well, there was.
I mean, I
there
wouldn't
was
either
Trevor.
if I could do what she does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was Trevor, but
Yeah.
Really?
Haha, yes.
had to
Dicks.
go there.
That's a great segue into your turn, Ben. What's up?
Okay, so things I loved about this, about the storylines and things like that. One thing that was, really kind of cool was this whole season, even after Taka and Sumi show up, the vampire hunters from Japan, we still see Alucard's almost at the beginning. We see Alucard falling into madness, and then he kind of plateaus out when they get there, and then by the end, he is fully, he is going back. He kind of just side steps right back into it. And at first, I thought, what was the point of that? But the point of that is this is what turns Alucard a little less than good. And so, and then we see Isaac's story, which actually sort of makes him slightly more human. The people he meets on the way, the captain, Miranda, and then that massive assault on the magician's tower, who we never find out anything else about the magician, but he is just there as a test, or as the final test for Isaac.
The alchemist, yep.
The alchemist, yeah. And I love the green crowns as the symbol of his magic versus the red corona about Isaac's blade.
Also,
of course,
sorry. Also, the big sphere of bodies is a commonly reoccurring Castlevania villain, sometimes referred to either as Grand Falloon or Legion.
Okay. Yeah, that was just for someone who hasn't played a lot of those games. I'm just going, oh my god, that's humongous.
Yeah, no, it's always a pain in the ass to kill too, because it keeps dropping bodies on you.
Yeah, it's in Symphony of the Night.
So, and then of course we've got Hector's whole thing, and seeing that Council of Vampires and actually going through the logistics of how they're going to take over as they know it is amazing.
Talk about red markets, am I right?
For real.
Yeah, no doubt.
We need an army, but we also need food, and we make our army out of the same thing we make our food out of. How does that work?
Well, the thing is, it's not really taking over the world per se. It's like ruling a large swath and just getting by forever.
Right,
exactly. Well, see, that was their world. That was the thing. That was all that was on the map was Poland.
Well, yeah, that's basically might as well be the world in their time, I suppose.
Yeah,
because unless you have a teleporting castle, your world is kind of small. Is kind of limited.
Right. Well, we have a teleporting castle, and your world is limited to that castle almost. But and just I love the very distinct personalities of the Council of Sisters. Marana and Striga as as lovers. Lenore as the conniving. Oh my God, I both do and don't want to ever meet Lenore. And then the whole thing with Trevor and Saint Germain and all that. But when it comes down to it, the last big battle that starts happening in the second to last episode, the penultimate episode, where you have the fights going on, and you also have two people having sex, two groups having sex, and as it turns out, those were also battles.
Yeah, I was about to correct you and say technically that's 5 people having sex.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was in fact 5 people having sex. You're correct.
Right. Well, you have two. Yeah, you have 2 sex scenes going on with 2 battle scenes. But then you realize the sex scenes at the end, the sex scenes are also battles.
Yep.
Because at the end of it, nobody who's having sex ends up, Hector doesn't turn out well. It doesn't turn out well for Alucard. But
the vampire that's got Hector by a thread is the only one that prevails in those scenarios.
Right, Lenore. Yeah.
Lenore, yeah. That's goth as fuck, by the way. Lenore. That's
right?
Shit right there.
Yeah.
I'll be right back and get some water. Keep talking.
So, but it's the whole thing, realizing is what's going on there. At the end of it, you realize, holy crap, yeah, those were also battles. Those were also, also fights. They just didn't look that way.
I didn't the Alucard one surprised me a little bit, and like it took me a little bit to realize what was going on there, but the other one was telegraphed as hell. I was like, okay, she's obviously just playing him, and this is not going to end well for him.
Right. But then of course the way she did it, oh my god. See, my concern is going to happen when her sisters put on those rings.
Yeah, they definitely leave that open to.
Yeah, it's kind of vague. We'll see how that plays out, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's.
But it was.
No, go ahead.
It was a nice subversion of the whole problem presented by Hector, in that as a Forge Master, everything he creates is loyal to him. But now that he is bound, basically, magically bound to Lenore, not a problem.
He got vampire lawyered.
Yeah, he did.
Which, write your own jokes there, folks. Vampire and lawyers in the same sentence.
Well, vampires, demons, very simple. But yeah, thing is Saint Germain got what he wanted. He was he got to go through to wherever the person he was looking for. We don't really get to see too much of that. But even some of the allies weren't really like the judge. Oh my god. That was, and Jason Isaacs did a good job of bringing him to life. But you started to understand the second time he starts giving the same set of directions to somebody.
Yeah, that was
this is not
very
well.
Like there's a lot of kind of like, hey, there's a lot of death and bleak things and gore and this and all this, darkety darkness going on. But like that kind of thing is that kind of thing, like the characterization of the judge and like him being one of the few people who was like actually listened to them and treated them decently, and like it's this big setup of like, oh, this seems like a very reasonable person, and then at the end like it's revealed that he's he does these horrific things, and it's like, and the thing about it is it's more, I don't know, it's like in a way it's more disturbing that he's aware of that and just doesn't seem to care enough, and the fact that he's like, yeah, like it deserves to be burned down, and I'm sure I'm going to hell, but it just is how it, like his nonchalance about the evil is like pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, which again, it's quite the trope, but the whole like evil of men being more scary than the monsters, blah blah blah.
Well, one of the sort of themes of the show as a whole so far is like different kinds of evil coming into conflict with each other. Because you see that especially in season 2 with the sort of like drama and conflict within Dracula's court, and like Carmilla trying to betray Dracula and all that stuff, and the Forge Masters sort of being, pawns of one or the other. And that's like definitely an issue. It's like, so like Sypha and Trevor both sort of like react to that in different ways. Like Trevor is like unsurprised. He's like, the world is terrible, everybody's basically evil, like and like this is just what you should expect out of the world, and do the best I can. in that situation. And Saifa's like, no, like we can be heroic, like, and everything can work out well, and like things can be fun and happy and like actually be good. And like this,
And that's why
season,
Trevor
like,
said that at the end of the season. He was like,
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Where he's like, we lived in your world for a while, now we're living in
Now we're living
mine.
in mine,
Yeah, I
And,
gotta
one
say, like, that's I think that's part of what makes their relationship so interesting, because like they
Mhm.
complement each other so perfectly, because like, well, I mean, it's kind of evidenced in the fact that the way they met is that she went off on a fool's errand and got herself petrified, right? And he had to save her from herself, basically.
right.
So it's
Mhm.
like, but at the same time, he was like, just running around with like no purpose and being miserable all the time, and actually like wallowing in it and embracing the misery and leaning into
Yeah.
it. So like he was living, but like in a way he was living less than her as a fucking statue. So they need each other, and they
Mhm.
kind of like they even each other out, where Trevor can actually remember that life is life, and to actually enjoy it, and to not always be a fucking negative Nancy all the time. But on the other hand,
Right.
he brings her down to earth. So it's like, yeah, you should actually have your guard up and not be a moron, considering how
Yeah.
the world actually is.
Mhm.
and if I may briefly digress with a quote from Jim Butcher. They complement each other in another way, in that with their two worlds thing, they exemplify the line: there are two worlds, the world that should be and the world that is. We live in one, and the counterpoint to that is and must create the other.
Yeah, they are definitely the embodiment of that. Of course, I think the other thing that just completely exemplifies Trevor at the end is a simple man with simple pleasures. As he walks into a fight.
That's right.
It's like, let me take care of these, because I really haven't gotten a good fight in a while.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't really
Ever
get
since
a
he
good
become all
fight,
magic and mum.
he completely raffle stomps the two guys that he's fighting.
But he has fun with it. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I guess I felt really useless since this all became about magic and shit. So yeah, but you can tell he's prolonging that fight, trying to decide which one he wants to kill. You know?
It's very much Hawkeye syndrome. It's like, oh, you've got Hulk and the Thor and shit, and he's like, hey guys, I've got a bow and arrow.
Right? Yeah. I use a bow. Yeah, it's very, very much Hawkeye in Age of Ultron.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's most that was most of my stuff. So who was up?
I believe in turn order it becomes Michael's turn now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I've kind of, I mean, part of it's just kind of a back and forth naturally. A lot of stuff I've touched on, but I would say just overall thoughts. I'm not sure if season one should be its own ranking, but because it was really kind of an extended pilot, really. But like I think the season is interesting. It's definitely good, but it's not as good as season two, because how could it be? Because it was so freaking epic, and it was the whole road to Dracula, and then the culmination of that.
Mhm.
And also just mathematically, like there were a lot of characters that got killed off, and a lot of those were interesting characters. So if they're gone, it's kind of hard to have that awesomeness around anymore. I think they did do a pretty good job of introducing new characters and making them like pretty much like immediately interesting in the limited time frame. And then of course, like we talked about, kind of expanding upon established characters. I mean, obviously, like the main protagonists and stuff with Trevor and Cyphus. Am I saying that right?
Sypha.
Sypha. Okay. Yeah, I always add a letter for some reason. Sypha. But yeah, I think overall some of the most fascinating stuff was seeing how Isaac and Hector fared after that. I mean, I guess Isaac is inherently more interesting because Hector is stuck in a friggin' cell, and a lot of it's just like, Tuesdays with Vampire Maury. But yeah, the Isaac thing, I don't know. That was kind of a microcosm of the whole philosophy and like premise of the show, where the whole thing like is humanity worthless, or is there value to it, and like how do you how do you manifest that? How do you squeeze the juice out of the orange and all that? I mean, that was the whole premise essentially that set all this into motion, was that you know, the church went in and were assholes and killed Dracula's wife, who's actually a really good person, and then unleashed hell on earth. But at the same time, it's important to realize if humanity wasn't valuable, then you would have never been able to have that miracle of having Dracula, of all people, fall in love with a mortal person, like genuinely, and actually have that kind of a reaction. Because, you know, I mean, it's obviously deeply loved her and everything, because all of that fell out from that. And as I liked, I liked that line when Isaac was talking to that ship captain, and he was giving him his story. He was like, "Hey, you know, tell me your story. We got nothing to do, and I'm in this for the stories." And he's telling him everything, and he talked about how, you know, he was serving Dracula, who ultimately would kill every last human being on the planet. And he's like, "Oh, that's suicide the long way around, isn't it?"
Yeah,
I think it's a very prolonged method of suicide.
Captain was the ship captain was a lot of fun, because he's like,
He was great.
I'm very pragmatic, I am. Because, you know, yes, you could in fact completely just kill all of us and take my ship. And I mean, nothing's stopping you. But what if?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that, you know, that Isaac doesn't realize is that sailing a ship is not something just anyone can do.
Yeah.
It's I would wager it's even more difficult when you have a clown car of unstable night creatures on the ship.
That's right. With a very,
Can you imagine? That would be like
ability.
that would be a great little physical comedy thing, like seeing them actually try to sail it as a
trying
crew,
to
like
sail a ship. Yeah.
like somebody like turning around and their spiked wing cuts open the sail. Like there'd be definitely like Benny Hill music involved, or like Scooby Doo music, you know.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was definitely. I think he might have been my favorite like supporting character. You know,
Yeah, he's fascinating.
He was definitely mine.
he had so much friggin' presence. You know, like the sound of his voice and just, you know, his dialogue and just his whole demeanor. I mean, for one, he was utterly fearless, but it wasn't like a false bravado. It was just like, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to die when I'm going to die, and this is how it is. So you can kill me or you can see reason. I really don't give a shit. Just do what you're going to do.
Right. Well, he
That's
was the only
another thing,
person in the
too.
town that didn't attack him.
Well, him and the merchant, yeah.
Or threaten him, at least.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
technically speaking, people threatened him and then he attacked first. As Rambo would say, he drew for his blood.
Yeah, he keeps giving people the opportunity. Like, what I don't get is, you know, night creatures. The night creatures are terrifying and horrible and monstrous, and pretty much everyone gets killed by them anytime they fight them, unless your last name is Belmont. So,
or you're a magician or something.
Yeah, like, yeah, unless your last name is Belmont, Belnatis, or Tepesh. So, like, why is it when there's this guy walking around with a fucking army of them,
Yeah.
and he says, "Look, guys, I don't want any trouble. I just want to go this way."
Yeah.
Why the fuck are you gonna be like, "No, I'm in your way"?
I'm pretty sure my 20 guys with halberds can take you.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Feel real
Can
confident.
take you and your legions of hell.
Haven't they had enough test cases where they've seen and heard tales of people like, these like big groups of people in like militaries and mercenary groups and stuff just being slaughtered by these things, that they should just step aside for a minute. And also, you know, I'm not sure how much knowledge they had of it, but the whole, hey, if somebody dies, they become one of these things, kind of a bad idea to engage. Just saying.
Exactly.
I mean, some people know that, some people wouldn't, but you know.
Yeah, and even then, like, also, even if you're suddenly dealing with, holy crap, here's this thing I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
This is set in what time frame theoretically on the Earth? And
maybe the early 1700s.
Yeah, and
Actually, in the
you know,
1400s.
Is it that early?
1475 is when Lisa was the stake.
Okay.
So why is it that people aren't sometimes just be like, oh my god, it's a monster, run away from it?
Yeah.
Well, also, it's pretty just, you don't have to be, you don't have to have some sort of like genius, analytical, tactical mind. You can just size it up and see like, oh, there's a lot of giant fuck off monsters.
he's
And I don't
like
think this
8
little
feet
spear's
taller
gonna
than me
do
and
much. Maybe I
has
should not fight this
spikes.
thing or these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sir Robin is definitely needed in this time and place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are some confident town guardsmen.
Yeah.
Or they just want to get it over with.
To protect this world.
Their lives are so terrible. That's the only explanation I can come up with, because that's dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, we gotta have an excuse for those, flamboyant scenes of carnage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
1470s, I think, to verify what Ben said.
Yeah, apparently. Okay.
I think here's the thing about Isaac, and again, Isaac is very complicated in this sense. Yes, every time he encounters, people being how they are, being, as he says, hateful and fearful and blah blah blah. He gives them a chance, but like he doesn't really try that hard. Like I feel like there's a difference between, hey, I've said a couple of things, I'm just trying to get by, and then okay, well, I'm gonna instantly unleash my hordes and
Well, okay.
Like there's a medium setting there.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
if they attack, if you're commanding the creatures, all you have to do is tell the creatures to defend themselves as you continue to move.
Yeah.
You don't have to slaughter every last person. They'll get the hint when half of them are dead as you continue moving.
It's true.
Well, he definitely like is like misanthropic though. Like he was definitely on board with like Dracula's plan to
absolutely.
like kill all of humanity
Well,
because
that's
he
my
hates
point.
people. So like he
That's my
doesn't give
point, though.
anybody a chance. Like he gives people like the minimum chance that he feels is fair. But he's like,
Well,
okay,
here's
well,
the-
you didn't surprise me, so I'm gonna kill y'all.
Right.
The thing is, he's dishonest with himself.
Yeah.
Because it's an excuse for him to do that. So he has this premise, this little pretense of like, okay, well, I'm going to say the thing, and I'm going to say the thing again. Oh, they didn't listen. Guess this is all I can do now, because that's what he really wants to do from the word go.
Yeah.
So he
Right.
convinces himself that somehow it's okay because he does that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's some conflict within him, because he was even able to even give the time of day to a couple of those people, like the
Yeah, that's a
shopkeep
good
and
point.
the captain. If he was completely sold on it, he wouldn't even bother and he wouldn't even listen. But at the same time, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know.
Well, Isaac was more surprised by those reactions.
Well, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's weird because he still takes it in. He's still like, oh, this is interesting. Like someone's actually being decent to me. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like there's this denial thing where it's like, oh, but I don't want to believe that, because then that would question everything I've done and everything I believe. So it's like he's trying to convince himself that these are weird anomalies and outliers that shouldn't really be taken seriously, which is why you're in that weird spot of him like continuing to give the little faux chances for people to not get slaughtered and then slaughtering them anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, the other interesting thing about that is Miranda said she could smell him, and he said he could see her. So there was that moment of recognition between fellow magicians. And I think there was, there was that whole, and I think that was the same with the shopkeep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got the impression that the shopkeeper was blind
Also true.
yeah.
because his eyes were gray. Like that's the usual animation shorthand for blind guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when he gets the thing, he kind of just knocks things around. Like he's not very,
Yeah, that's a good point. So that may
Not
be
very delicate with
two
it.
blind people that Isaac encounters in the course of the series. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because evidently blind people can see better than sighted people at some point.
So,
the blind leading the blind. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, a one-eyed man is king in the world of blind men.
This is true. Although, truth be told, the blind people tend to lead Isaac in unexpected directions.
Mm-hmm.
that's true.
That's because it's not a world of blind men. Instead they get the standard trope of the blind seer.
Yeah. Well, another thing I'd like to point out with the whole Isaac thing is when he's talking to the ship captain, what's so funny to me is that like Isaac, he's very self-righteous. Like
Yeah.
he's really into him. Like he's really sold on his, his I don't know, his ultimate quest or goal or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it. But like the simplest thing just like baffles him, and it's like he's like, okay, so you're gonna go here and you're gonna get your revenge. Okay, so then what are you gonna do? And he's like, fuck, I don't know. It's like, well,
Hadn't
maybe
thought
you
that
should have
far
thought
ahead.
of that. Maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I don't know, it's weird because like he is so fucked up that like for him, simply slaughtering untold amounts of people and ruling the world is a step up from where he was before. Like that's how
Mhm.
fucked up the scale is with this guy. So I just want to take a moment to kind of acknowledge that weird truth that like, oh hey guys, he's making progress. He doesn't want to exterminate every last life form on the face of the earth and then presumably commit suicide. Now he just wants to kill a lot of people and then rule over the world with an iron fist to try to
Fair.
megalomaniacally control it for the better.
Right.
Well, he's on his way.
Yeah. And then that also kind of showcases a kind of a I mean, this is just my interpretation here, but I would say like the shrewdness and insight of the captain, which is that like he sized up Isaac fairly well from the beginning, even before he went into the gory details, no pun intended, about his backstory and everything. And that is that, okay, this is the best I can hope for this guy. He's not going to see the light and suddenly become a pacifist or something, but at least I can steer him like a little bit away and then have some interesting stories in the process. You know, I'm not sure how much of that is like self-preservation or that would make a good story, or how much of it is like altruistic of, oh hey, maybe I could prevent every last person from being killed kind of thing. That's open to interpretation, but I do find that that's, you know, that's kind of interesting. And then the weird like dynamic of the conversation where it's like it's been established from the word go that he could easily kill the captain and, you know, everyone else, anyone else, destroy the shit, do whatever he wants to do. But then like it ends with that whole like, oh yes, I would like some water please, and he's like, okay, I will give you this gift of water, as if he's the one in control. I thought that was pretty great. And then he doesn't
Right.
challenge him on it either, which I feel is very telling.
Yep.
So I guess TLDR for me is Isaac is the most interesting part of the season overall.
I agree.
I definitely think you're right.
Um,
Fascinating character.
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because, like, I guess I've been kind of wondering whether, like, well, so to draw things back to the games a little bit, Isaac and what's his name,
Hector.
Are the antagonist and protagonist respectively from Castlevania Curse of Darkness on the PS2. I've begun creating sort of a small headcanon here, in that the writers, while they were writing, got them backwards.
Huh.
Which is why which is like why Isaac is doing things, and they're trying to just be, and I think at this point they realized it, and they're just trying to play it off, but that's my current theory as to why all the bad shit seems to be happening to someone who's theoretically supposed to be a game protagonist. That, and also, you know, they're taking massive liberties with everything. So,
well, it's not following anything like the games.
No.
They're just
It's not.
inspiration.
It's more like you dumped a thing of toys into a sandbox. Like, yeah, there are names and elements, but they're all just jumbled together for their own purposes to adapt to that medium.
This is true.
So yeah, I think that's at least most of my general thoughts off the top of my head. So Ethan, what
Sure.
for us?
Your turn.
So when I first sort of got finished with the season 3, I was like, you know, it's kind of like the part of the video game where, like, after you've killed the main boss, but you still want to get 100%, so you go and do all like the side quests and get all the optional characters.
Grant,
So-
by the way, is still nowhere to be seen.
I don't think he's coming. But it's like, but it's very interesting to, like, it's very unexpected in a narrative sense for a show to basically kill its main antagonist and resolve its like core conflict at the end of the season 2 and then continue.
Right.
Unless you're supernatural. In which case you do it like every third season.
You do it
Yeah,
like
well,
5 times.
Unless you're supernatural, in which case you know, discover the plural of apocalypse.
Exactly. But I guess so. I mean, it happens sometimes in like long running TV series. But like the fact that like Castlevania, it's like the whole concept of Castlevania is people trying to kill Dracula, and the fact that they got that they finished that at the end of season 2, and it's like, but what happens after that? What do you do with all the people who survive that conflict? Like, what do they do in their lives afterward? It was really interesting to me. And
Well,
I actually,
that's a good point, actually. I was just gonna interject real quick that I feel like they kind of were cognizant of that would only take them so far, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
was more of like a general setting. So they wanted to have like a playground of this dystopian thing and establish all these characters. Then it's like, okay, well that Dracula business is done, so now we're in an open play like freeform mode, and we can do
Exactly.
whatever. You know, the main storyline is done. To again use your video game analogy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it really works. Like, I want to say, like, it's an unusual narrative form, but I think they're really like making it work really well, because it's like Trevor and Cypher are off doing their thing, and they're developing their characters, and like
Leveling up.
yeah, and also just like figuring out what kind of people they want to be in this like post Dracula. Like, is Trevor's storyline over? Should he just go back to like being a drunkard with no purpose in life because he's fulfilled his only purpose in life?
Yeah, because
Or can he find something else to do?
yeah, the Belmont's whole job is kill Dracula.
Right.
Well,
Once
if it's
every
not
2
a
or 3
rhetorical,
generations.
if it's not a rhetorical question, I think I have an answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious answer would be he has a kid with Sypha, and the Belmont name, he renews the Belmont name because there's still plenty of monsters to kill, just not Dracula specifically.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they say, I mean, and Alucard has sort of the same thing, and he's like, I would think Trevor would be happy if I'm training another, generation of vampire hunters. Like, somebody still needs to hunt vampires.
Yeah, well, that's interesting too, right? Is that it's kind of ambiguous with again, because stay tuned, kids. Season, it's kind of ambiguous when they end Alucard's narrative there, where he has the impaled people as a warning,
Mhm.
and it's like, one way to interpret that is like, oh, he's going full Dracula and like he's changing, but another way to interpret that is just that he's being a realist, and he's saddened by the fact that he knows that he'll kind of always have to be just apart from like the world and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a question of like, is he just kind of, just being less naive, or is he going full Isaac, where he's like, man, this is all bullshit?
It definitely is like he's not to the level like Isaac is at, or the other vampires are at, where it's like they're just selfish, or they're just completely given up on humanity.
Yeah.
Like, but he's definitely like had a serious blow in his ability to trust people.
Right.
And in his like confidence that he can actually like live with people and like be a companion and like a friend.
Right.
Because like he felt like his opportunity with the 2 vampire hunters was like he felt like he was finding a new identity as being their like mentor.
Right. Well, that's an interesting point too, right? Is that like, beyond just the obvious, like, oh, they chained him up and they were going to kill him, the baseline betrayal of just, being violent. Like, even if like, well, the fact that they did it in that way, where they seduced him and got all intimate with him, like that in and of itself is like super creepy and like wrong, because it's like, it's funny because, I mean, he, like, on a power level, like he's insanely powerful. He's one of the most powerful creatures in existence, but like, from an emotional and psychological point, like he's totally damaged and vulnerable. And they like came into his home and like just mind fucked him, which is weird because he's half vampire. But anyway, the point is, it's a script flipped, right? Because the humans come in and like they just exploit his loneliness and like, his situation.
I wasn't really happy with the way that just suddenly, popped up, because you're lying to us and things like that. And like, no.
Yeah,
it felt contrived.
I don't think they telegraphed it in like very effectively. I think they again, looking back at like the scripts, you can sort of, I think, see where they were trying to do that, but I don't think they set it up actually.
Well, the problem with it is there are these situations where they would be on their own, where they at least think no one's listening, and they didn't really. There wasn't any like explicit like, oh, like he's totally screwing us, and like, oh, we have to, have our revenge or do whatever. Like generally there'd be a back and forth, and there'd be at least some line in there about how they're giving them benefit of the doubt, and it's just like out of nowhere they just betray him. Like it
it was
very
a little
abrupt to me.
I mean, they wanted it to be a surprise, but I think they kind of erred too far in the direction of it being
I would rather
unexpected.
it be believable and not be as surprising than
I
to
agree.
just surprise for the sake of surprising.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it becomes a matter of have an unreliable narrator. It was the only downside, really to this season for me.
Yeah, that's a difficult line to walk, so I'm not super surprised that they didn't pull it off. To try to make it like, oh, there's gonna be a twist, but we want to tell you what the twist is, but we want you to not be like mad when the twist comes. It's hard thing to achieve, so they didn't achieve it.
Well, part of the reason that surprised me so much is because like it was obvious with how much time was left in the show that they were just setting up a lot of stuff that weren't going to be able to resolve or pay off in the same season. So when they did that with all those other plot threads, I'm like, okay, this is just another one of those threads. So like they're going to go off to Japan, or like, he's going to like, they're going to go off and teach others. Like something will happen. There'll be like some ripple effect from this, but it's like, nope, no, we're just clearing the board. It's just they're dead and then it's over.
Yeah, there is
like, really.
There is a sense that like everyone is like in a really, really dramatically different. Well, okay, I should say, Isaac and Sypha and Trevor are in like physically different and like dramatically different places at the ends of their arcs, whereas Alucard is actually kind of like back to the same situation he was in before, just having like learned a lesson.
Right.
And like the Vampires of Styria are with Carmilla and everything. They're basically just like getting ready to do stuff still.
The Council of Sisters, yeah.
Because this is all right. Well, let's set up for season 4 for a lot of it.
So there's one thing in looking at the end of this though, what was the deal with because you notice who Dracula was with in hell.
Yeah, his wife.
Yeah, if anybody should not have been in hell, it should have been her.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, I don't know that they go into too much detail as to how you end up in hell, aside from
I think everybody does there,
apparently. Right.
Yeah, it's very confusing because it's like, all right, so who doesn't go to hell?
Yeah, they don't really.
Everyone does.
I mean, there's not necessarily an established heaven.
Right.
There's only an established hell.
And we really don't see any sort of sacred power. All we see is hell and magic.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the church apparently, like the symbols of the church, have some sort of power against the vampires, but it's not quite clear. Like, there's no like representative of like they have power because. They're actually good from actual God or anything like that.
Exactly.
Well, the infinite corridor thing, I guess, is kind of confusing to say the least. So that could just be a metaphysical fuckery thing where we don't really know what that's supposed to mean. Like, maybe Dracula is, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he's living his hell by having to lose her over and over again. Or like he has somehow done a thing and has tried to like, steal some time with her,
or
and she's acting somewhere else.
Right, given the infinite corridor, it could have not been looking at hell.
It could have been like, yeah, that's what I was going to say is like a thing that we're just made to think is hell. It could be like a parallel existence or whatever. There's all sorts of weird explanations potentially. But I was going to say another
also
thing.
It's possible as well that given that she knew that was where her husband is going, that she elected to go to hell.
I suppose that's possible.
That's interesting, but I mean, do you get a choice? Like, that's not really established.
Who knows?
One would think you just have.
Honestly, the rules of this afterlife are pretty vague and ill-defined.
Yes, most definitely.
And inconsistent.
Also, he said time and space, not just space. So who knows? Maybe that was like a Wayback Machine thing where they were still together. Like it's who knows?
I mean,
like,
they obviously got to the time of walking robots and spaceships.
Yeah, super weird.
I love how they just randomly. By the way, I'm pretty sure that walking robot thing was a shout out to Metal Gear. which is another Konami property.
That's possible.
Brand synergy.
I mean, Konami's not making games anymore, so you might as well shout something out. That's
Well,
not true.
that-
They're making pachinko machines, but that's
That was
about
one
all.
of the few things that seemed kind of out of left field to me. It was like, oh, BT Dubs, like there's this infinite corridor thing, and it's like, there's just a weird metaphysical thing that can lead anywhere at any time.
Mhm.
It's like,
Also
okay.
from the games.
It's just like it was a very
True.
casual drop of something that completely changes existence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true.
Well, and I liked Saint Germain's way of undoing what was going on because he couldn't close the corridor, but he could change where it went.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a nice
Ethan, if you pluck on that spring, you get an interesting musical sting for the thing.
I apologize.
Did they ever establish who it was that he lost?
Not
No.
specifically. It looks like a female figure of some sort.
Yeah.
All
It
he
is
ever tells us
explicitly not explicit.
right. All he ever tells us is he lost some important corridor.
Yep.
Mhm.
Actually, well, I think when he was writing in his journal, he uses a female pronoun. I can't remember though.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
Okay, so I got a vibe, and I was wondering if anybody else got this vibe when it was that night creature that was all on had the weird, scary crucifix situation going on with it.
Yep.
Did anyone else have a weird theory going into that the person he lost was actually that creature that was like manipulated or that was like changed?
No,
or
I really
something?
didn't get that.
No, I didn't get
Okay.
that.
I just had a weird
Um,
vibe there where like the way it looked at him and like the way the infinite corridor is described, I'm like, is this going to be some weird M. Night Shyamalan ding dong thing where this turns out to be the person?
it could have. I mean, they had like presage that like they'd set up that like hell creatures or night creatures can like have a memory of whatever
Yeah,
their
that's another
soul
thing.
was
That's another thing
beforehand.
why I thought that is
It
because
doesn't really
they
pay off
had
in
all
any
these
other way.
establishing things where it was like, oh, like Isaac is turning people into creatures, and there's this one example of this creature that can like it's still kind of itself in some ways, and yeah, it was just a weird thing.
which was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, that could have been an interesting twist.
That's
didn't
another
go
thing
that
is
way,
too.
though.
They did that, and then they just kind of didn't go anywhere, right?
Right.
Like what was that about?
Well, the thing with the night creature, the prior under the
The
abbey,
philosopher.
yeah. Well, the night creature under the church was that it was like it was Isaac's backup plan. Because its whole purpose, because first of all, it was established that it was one of Isaac's night creatures.
Was it?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And it was also established that it was its primary thing was to bring Dracula back. That was the whole thing behind it. So it was almost like there was a contingency plan that Isaac had set in motion. But the other thing I'm wondering is because we see that giant fuck off mirror at under the magician's tower, under the alchemist's tower, but we don't see anything other than Isaac back at the old woman at the fire, and then he comes out and does the whole thing with "Don't burn the town down." What else did he see? Or was that him going, okay, now this setup is complete. So
yeah, it does seem like Isaac is like ready to just attack Styria now. Like it doesn't seem like he has any more like steps to his plan.
Right.
he has a giant army, and he has a way to get them to his destination. So it seems like he's ready to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, and I wonder what the resolution is going to be between Isaac and Hector, because Hector was betrayed by Dracula. In that his idea was to cull the humans, keep the population at a manageable rate, and and so on. And Dracula's like, nope, I'm going to kill them all, just not going to tell you about it. Isaac, on the other hand, is we should kill them all, and of course, so there was this dual betrayal. But in Isaac's head, it's Hector betrayed Dracula, who betrayed Hector.
Right.
It's betrayal bingo.
Yeah, exactly. It's betrayal square dancing, do-si-do.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, with the whole Isaac thing, it's like it feels like the setup to cheesy Alien vs Predator AVP marketing. The first one, where it's like, whoever wins, we lose.
Yeah.
Any other profound thoughts? It seems like we've pretty much covered our bases.
Yeah.
I am still looking forward to I look forward to new releases of this pretty much anytime they like. My fervor for this series is not lessened.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah. It was a good season. You know,
Yeah.
I did like the atmosphere of it, because
Mhm.
the thing you get into this is magic corrupts. There is no true good. It just sets for the whole. I love the tone and everything it sets for that whole thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, one could say power corrupts. Magic is just a specific power.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sypha seems pretty non-corrupt at the moment.
I was gonna see, like, the fact
She's
that
traveling with Trevor. Give it time.
well, the fact that Sypha's magic is like elemental, it's all just like ice and fire and electricity.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
it means that,
And
there's nothing really there to corrupt. It's just like she's
Yeah.
not like dealing
Mhm.
with like secret truths or like
Right, it's just like
you
the
know,
primal
creatures.
forces.
I did like how she pulled I do like how she pulled electricity out of the hat for the first time.
Yeah.
Right, and had to work at it. Also liked how she used what she had, like when she cast the ice spell around Saint Germain, and the one guy was trying to get to him. She basically like, oh,
Rips all those ice chunks up and turns them into
Well, she
she's
basically
great.
cuts the guy's hand off, and then
Yeah.
like in the middle of a fight, has the bad guy focusing on her and pulls all those ice chunks and turns them into flying buzzsaws.
Yeah, it's great.
I love how she uses. I mean, that's one of the most metal things ever, is how she used disembodied parts of her fallen opponents as ammunition to kill further
Yeah.
opponents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then
Sypha once again wins the most badass award. Like, she beat Alucard in season 2. Because yes, Alucard, sure, he did a couple things, and sure, he killed some vampires, and he was super strong, but Alucard killed like 2 guys, and Sypha killed like 1 million.
Well, and I love how she did the Iron Man thing to using the jets of fire.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Shooting out to fly. It's
I was
like,
like,
okay,
oh, that's
Simon,
a neat trick.
you can just do it all, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
She just doesn't have as many hit points as everyone else. That's the downside.
I gotta say, I did like the fact, and this is definitely obvious spoiler, but like, I did like the fact that like Alucard had not used his enchanted sword for anything the entire like season. And it's like, oh yeah, you guys didn't even know I had this enchanted sword.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that Quigley Down Under line. I said my like that. Say I didn't.
Was it? You mean the whole like? Is that the line?
I said that my father didn't like magical weapons. I never said I didn't.
Yeah, I never said I didn't use them.
I assume the Quigley Down Under thing you're talking about is the whole like. I don't like. I said I don't like guns. I didn't say I didn't.
Yeah, no, I didn't have much use for pistol. Didn't say I didn't know how to use one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Also, Elliot Spencer from Leverage.
This is true. This is true. God, yes. When we finally do see him use guns.
I'm sure that's a pretty big trope.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the more standard tropes of guy doesn't. It's similar to it's related to the trope of Batman pulls out the gun.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm willing to bet the Elliot Spencer thing is technically listed there. Let's check.
Oh,
I've got an internet. Loud loud typing for a second.
Oh dear. Let's look up things on the internet. That's
Attack.
We do this. You obviously don't listen to this episode to this podcast very often.
That's very much a comic book thing.
To the internet.
You can almost see the big TAK things that tack.
yes.
Oh, that's because it's a mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, you guys and your mechanical keyboards.
And I got a nice clicky one. And yes, Elliot Spencer picking up the gun is in fact listed in the TV tropes page of Batman grabs a gun.
Which is kind of funny because Batman originally started out using a gun.
That's right. He's got one in the first Batman comic cover.
It's
one of those
true,
little
but
mundane, one of those weird.
because they didn't know
factoids.
things about him. They hadn't really established his character yet.
It's just like,
This is true.
how the first episode or first issue of Hulk, rather, he was gray, not green.
Yep.
Also
Mhm.
true.
And that's one of his most iconic things now, is the fact that he's green. So kind of funny.
And that's because the gray was apparently really hard to print.
Yeah, it didn't show well, didn't work well for the medium.
Yeah.
It's funny how there's so many things like that where it's just a practical choice of, oh, this doesn't show up in comics well, this doesn't show up on the film well, so this is just what we're gonna do, and then that becomes this big, like, recognizable thing when it was just fucking happenstance at the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's like some of the things that happened, that which brings to mind my favorite Star Trek story when they were trying to do the Green Orion woman. They couldn't get the makeup to work right. Well, as it turns out, the editor was color correcting the film, so she looked tan.
That's funny.
So yeah.
Well, it seems like we're pretty much tapped out.
Yep, and we've hit the hour and a half mark too. So
Oh, yay.
Good timing.
All right. Any closing
Ethan's horrible experience of being in the podcast is coming to an end.
Oh my gosh. Can't be soon enough.
In 2 weeks we will talk to you about something else. We're not quite sure what. Of course, we're all still alive.
Right. All right.
Wash your hands, everybody, and stay inside.
And
Yes.
click like and subscribe.
Yeah. Click like and subscribe and comment. And I know the episode went out up on Facebook. The most recent episode went up on Facebook real late. I was having difficulty with my with my automation service.
Don't worry
I think I
about
got it resolved though.
Awesome. Ethan, thanks for being with us, man.
it.
Indeed.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks
I had a
for
good
doing
time.
Yeah. And anytime we're recording remotely, I'm sure you are welcome to join in. Assuming
Great, cool. I'm out of work for at least another month, so
Yeah.
good times.
I don't know how long we're going to be recording remotely, but definitely for the time being, at the very least. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been Neil,
The one true Ben.
Mike.
and
Ethan Cordray.
we will talk to you next time on Geek Fanthology. Bye, everyone. I got to tell Craig to go away.
Craig, stop recording.
Is that? Oh, I didn't spell it right. This podcast is a production of Working Theory Productions. It was brought to you by the letter B and the number 102. Opening theme is Ultra Mega Hyperstorm, and ending theme is March of the Mind, both by Kevin MacLeod. Interstitial this week was Bloody Mayhem by Bonkers over at ocremix.org. If you enjoyed this podcast or know someone who would, please consider sharing it on your social media, sending us an email, leaving us a comment, liking our YouTube content, subscribing, commenting, following us on, everything. The reason everyone asks for that is because it really helps to build appearance. Like it makes us easier to find for everyone else. So if you can do that, please do. It really helps. If you really enjoyed the podcast, please consider supporting us, either by making a one-time donation on our website at www.workingtheoryproductions.com, or a recurring one through Patreon at patreon.com/workingtheory. Final thought. Please continue to stay safe and smart and healthy out there. We'll get through this all together.